Like cyber resilience seems to be your sort of reason for being, your umbrella, sort of like what you bring to the world. Can you talk about that cyber resilience as it relates to defense, to infrastructure, to state and local, all the different things that you use it for? What does cyber resilience mean broadly?
It means being able to accomplish the mission regardless of a cyber attack or natural disaster or some adverse condition that may be affecting the system or the organization. So in cybersecurity terms, you focus on the protect, detect, respond, restore. You focus on the controls. You focus on the compliance, and that starts to become sometimes a little separated from the actual mission. So you may be pushing like, okay, we need to put up this firewall or make sure no one can get through. But the sad inevitability is someone's going to get through. If a sophisticated nation state is motivated enough to target you, or you're just unlucky enough to be in their range of IPs that they scanned and you look vulnerable, then you're going to be compromised. It's almost you will be compromised. Mm-hmm. So prepare for that. Don't keep putting all the effort into trying to not be compromised. Right. Start putting effort into, we're going to be compromised. How do we get through it? How do we continue business as usual?
Right. Yeah. And again, I think that goes well as a piece with the cyber-informed engineering of, if something happens, if the tripwire trips and the chemicals fall out, like what are the sort of like physical backups? And so you're basically sort of like talking like a series of fail safes or blast door. I don't know. I'm using weird movie metaphors because I don't know what we're talking about. But is that kind of what I'm hearing? Like, as long as so because it sounds like it connects to everything from like endpoint security to
It does.
Yeah,
so it really does.
It's like the big picture of all that.
It is, and I'll mention a report I was able to work on last year that was published this year, and you mentioned it in my bio. It's the PCAS, the President's Council for Advisors in Science Technology, recommendations on cyber physical systems resilience that was given to the president earlier this year. And we focused on, how do we ensure cyber physical systems stay resilient? And when I say cyber physical systems, before we were talking about DoD, that's usually a lot of IT cybersecurity. So is my network working? Are my office systems working? Is the data good? But when I say cyber physical systems, I'm talking more of those operational technologies that are running a factory, that are running the energy sector, that are running the water sector, that are producing some type of physical output. So when those things stop, our life as we know it completely changes. That the Colonial Pipeline, cyber physical systems, we no longer get gas. A hospital, okay, we no longer get well, maybe in a hospital. There's OT systems within a hospitel. They do their own water stuff, but
it could be as bad as an emergency room, or as little as the other day I had to take my paper prescription because my hospital system got ransomware and their online prescription system's not working. So it's
right.
All kinds of different ways that can hit. Yeah. Anyway.
So on the OT side, that operational side, where there's a some type of kinetic output, some machine that's doing something, it's important to have the resilience there. And like I said, the cyber informed engineering. So you build those systems from the beginning to withstand these type of attacks, establishing the public-private partnership, because it's really interesting when you get into the governance side of this and the recovery side of this, and you start to think, well, what if there was some type of major cyber disruption? And you go, again, I know your audience might be predominantly DoD. So outside of DoD, a lot of critical infrastructure is privately owned. So you don't have a commander someplace under the direction of a general someplace saying, do this for everyone. You have an energy sector that's comprised of privately owned companies with their own CEOs that have their own level of prioritization on what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. And they need a good relationship with the government. So in the time of, okay, there's no more energy in the United States, there's massive blackout. So how does the government work with those companies to ensure we can bring that back up? And we have that coalition. There's also other aspects of resilience besides the public-private partnerships, cyber-informed engineering, the identifying within critical infrastructure in your systems, what are those critical components? What is the supply chain of those? I use the example of a flux capacitor because I think people understand what that means.
Yeah.
If your flux capacitor goes out, that's going to be a lot different than blowing a tire. It's going to be easier to replace the tire or fix the tire than, oh no, it's a flux capacitor. So do you have a stockpile of those? Who are you getting those from? What does that look like? How long is it going to take to replace the flux capacitor? So, once you start to incorporate that into your system, then you can start to have that ensured resilience for your mission. And you really only get that by identifying that critical path of, what is that minimal viable piece of what you have to do, that minimal viable what is the word? Your objective, so ensuring that you're putting out what you need to in an emergency for service or product.
Want more career advice? Well, click here to check out my full conversations on the Cyberwork podcast. Every week, I sit down with a cybersecurity practitioner to discuss how you can break into and move up the ladder in the cybersecurity industry. See you there.